Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Siobhan Live show. And yes, I am Siobhan Layden. I'm back in the chair and I just want to say a big thanks, of course, to everyone who covered, in particular Desley Humphrey, who covered the show while I was away. He walks Ludmila. So I think she did a fantastic job. But it's wonderful to be back. I do hope we're going to have a fantastic show. Let's see how it goes. Well, we're also back with a great lineup of shows just to give you an insight into what's going to be happening over the week. We have, of course, got Property Sunday, which is going to remain on every Sunday, and the Art and Culture and Books on Monday. The Environment Show, the Green Team, is back on a Tuesday. And if it's technology that you're interested in, then tune in on Wednesday for Unwired. And the weekly news show on Thursday with Carlo, with the revived entrepreneur slot. So lots to look forward to and to listen to over the week. And as always, we look for your thoughts and comments. So do join us over the week. You can do so live via SMS 4001. You can also send me an email if you've got any thoughts, comments, any subjects that you feel that you would like to hear covered that we perhaps haven't touched on as yet. Then please do send me an email. I would really love to hear from you. You can contact me on Siobhan, SIOBHAN @ARN.AE, or go to our website, of course, Dubai1038.com. Well, back to today's property show, and where each week we take a look at some of the headline stories and, of course, welcome the experts to decipher all those details for us, as well as encouraging you to join in the conversation. It's your opportunity to ask lots of those burning property, real estate, legal and financial related questions and air your opinion. So let me introduce our regular commentators who join me each Sunday. Ludmila Yamalova, who's managing partner with Yamalova and Plewka Legal Consultants. She's back with lots more legislation updates and news from the legal world, and also ready to answer some of your legal questions. Ludmila, hello.
Hello, Siobhan. Good to see you.
Where are you now?
Just for slightly delayed entrance, delayed and noisy entrance.
That's all right.
Good to see you. Wonderful
Good
to have
to
you
see
back.
you. Kind of strange, but it's weird. What do they say?
It feels like you've never left.
It's a bit of a time warp going on.
I'm sure you've been very much missed by our listeners, and we're all happy.
Well, it's wonderful to be back, and great to see you back as well. With you, I should say, be back with you.
We've been here holding down the fort for you.
You have indeed, and done a fantastic job. Thank you. Well, let's also say hello and welcome to Mike Small of VSM Consulting. He's also going to be sharing with us some of his macroeconomic opinions and micro-analysis. How are you, Mike?
Siobhan. I'm very well, thank you, and lovely to see you back,
thank you.
As Ludmila says. Yes, great news.
And I hope it's not all... When we left, it was pretty doom and gloom, but...
Well, since then, Mike has been all about good news.
Has he? What's happened?
I banged my head, basically. After I banged my head, I came up with some good news.
The world looks to be in a different place.
It takes, after all.
No.
How did you do it again?
I think people want me to.
No. We like the realism, Mike. Keep that in check. And
well, it's what you make real decisions based on. If you make it on false hope, then, sorry, you're going to lose money. So I stick to realism.
But you know what? I mean, I must admit, I am obviously I've tried to keep in touch with everything, but have not managed to keep in touch with everything, so you'll have to bear with me on that. But I was sort of skimming the news and sort of reading back on many stories, and also on a report that we are going to be discussing later on in the programme as well. We're going to be welcomed by Craig Plum, Head of Research at Jones Lang LaSalle, again a great regular contributor to this show, and he's got some news about the Dubai real estate market overview Q1 2012. And I've pulled out words such as stable, remaining stable, buoyant, positive trend, you know, all these various different great terminologies and words, and I'm thinking, this is good.
No, that's right.
Various other reports as well that have come out and said, you know, getting back on track.
You relate it to the real economy. You know, people have this idea that property always goes up. It doesn't. It goes in line with the economy, and occasionally it goes completely out of whack. The economy here is recovering. It's not massive. It's not '07, and people really mustn't expect it to be '07 again, because if it is, you'll get '08 again straight afterwards. So it is recovering. There's more people on the roads. I can certainly see that. There's more demand, especially at the higher end. Anything that's built, anything that's a community, anything that's finished is getting a bid in the market, and that's good. As long as people don't see it as a green light to speculate, and then, of course, cause another bust, which would harm everyone. So what I hope more than anything and I believe the central bank is well on the case, which is wonderful, that no one then uses it as an excuse to go mad.
Right, yeah. I tell you what, let's go back to that, because maybe we can kick that off as one of our stories, because there's a number of stories I'd like to relate that to as well. I know you've got some. But let's, as always, just get an overview about what both of you will be discussing. Let's start with you, Ludmila. As always, you've got lots of updates for us, some great stories in the news.
Sure. One update relates to a topic we discussed last weekend, or last Sunday rather, and then there were a few other news coverage about that same topic or during the course of the week, so we can sort of shed some light and a little more detail on that, and that's specifically related to the draft real estate investor protection law. We had touched upon it last week, actually, before the news broke out in, I guess, print media. And since then, there have been a number of commentators, casting their own votes and commentaries. So we can talk about that. And if listeners have any specific questions, we definitely welcome those as well. There have also been a few updates about, once again, Nakheel. Nakheel has been very popular over the last several months.
I was just about to say, and all over the news for various different reasons.
Yes, I mean, this particular story relates to Nakheel's basically cutting off access to residents' garages.
That's it, right.
And also there's another article subsequent to that from RERA that comments and criticizes Nakheel's moves with regards to that. There are also a few articles actually about the auction. There are RERA held auction, and we've actually attended all of the auctions basically since the very beginning for the last 3 or 4 months. So in addition to what's been printed in the media, we can also shed some light about our first-hand experience. There's
you went bidding, were you?
Excuse me?
Were you bidding?
Yes, of course. We were outbid. Just didn't have enough cash in our pockets.
Sat on your hands during that auction.
And then there was an interesting story actually from a CEO of one of the real estate companies recently that that refers to sort of the off-plan market and what it really means, and I think that will be kind of an interesting discussion, regarding in connection with Craig's discussion, I guess, and Mike's as well, about sort of the overall state of the economy and this alleged sort of growth and boom and positive sort of trend that we're hearing about. And then kind of related to that, there are a few other stories about rents increasing in Dubai and and sort of similar stories. So if we get a chance, we'll get to those as well.
Got lots to get through and looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Ludmila. And over to you, Mike. I mean, as we said, we'll be going in much further detail about that, and we not to get ahead of ourselves, of course, but you've got lots of other stories. Would you like to just give us a brief overview of some of those? Yeah,
well, as you know, my brief for my clients is risk analysis and risk awareness, and therefore I'm trying to see things before other people do, if you like, as a way of protecting them from losing money, particularly in this world which is very volatile. So there's a lot of things out there in the press this week. The biggest thing actually hit the press on Friday, and I know the salesmen make a lot of this, but it is a very important number, which is the jobs data from the US. Now, most people say, well, what does that mean to me? But there is an awful lot behind it, and so hopefully we can talk about that. And I've got my favourite commentator, Mohammed Al-Arian, who has spoken about it very vociferously since Friday when he's analysed it and realised some of the problems within it. That's fine. We've got trust was the big word that came out last week. I think it was a lady texted in about her 11-year-old who wanted to understand why you couldn't just print more money. Why couldn't you do that to get out of problems? Just print more money. And we came down to the word trust, because if people don't trust the money that they're given, then obviously it doesn't have a value, or doesn't have the value that they want it to have. And that's the same with the property, if you like, isn't it? If you don't trust the value, if you don't trust whether it's going to hold its value, then do you buy, etc., etc. So trust is a key word in all economics. A quick rundown on some of the topics. Australia, they dropped interest rates this week. They're in a bit of a sticky situation there, both east and west. Spain, mess. Banks passing the parcel, trying to work out who holds the debts. A terrible place to be. Ireland, even worse. Central bank is now saying that properties are 50% below what they should be. Well, what a nonsense. They're either priced right or not. So to say that they're too cheap is just ridiculous. I think they're saying actually it's not 50%, it's 50,000. They're saying all properties are really worth 50,000 more. Well, what a nonsense.
Right.
It's all depending on what the economy is doing. It's all depending on who's got money, who's got salaries, whether the banks are lending, whether the banks can lend. It's not to do with someone looking at something and saying that's worth 200,000. That's a nonsense. It moves with the economy. May Day, workers versus capital, and I thought that was tremendous. I thought that was a really good sort of a synopsis of where we are. You know, it's workers versus capital, and May Day is often the day that's reflected in across the world.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, you know, should
Well, I suppose we don't really kind of have much of... We wouldn't
We
really
don't see it
being much here. I mean, it's all
no,
about,
we don't. No, but it's important in
unions
terms
and-
of Europe and the West. And again, I'm talking about developed economies. Why? Because they are on the way down. And you know, that's part of the massive effect that could affect everything. So we have to take it into account when we're looking at things. US, why housing prices won't recover? Well, salaries aren't. Simple as that. People aren't earning anymore. And this number that came out Friday, 8.1% unemployed, joke. Absolute joke.
That sounds very small.
Add back the number of people who now don't actually even bother registering, and you're 11.1 at the beginning of Barack Obama's rule. You're 13.1 if you go back to the beginning of Bush's rule. So that's the real number. It's not 8.1 because half of them have given up. So, you know, so these are the things that UK house prices, they fell a little bit in April, not a lot. So, and also French prices to fall 40% according to experts.
Right.
There we are. That's sort of categories we can cover.
Have you been keeping tabs on the French election?
I have, yeah. Well, not today because obviously it's just starting the voting.
Right,
But
yes.
yeah,
The whole tax issue there is obviously one...
massive. And the
is-
EU issue. And what do we do with it? You know, what does the EU do? Does it go for growth and abandon austerity, or does it keep on with austerity and run the risk that some of the countries just fall over?
Right.
Very difficult.
We must go to our first break of the hour. I think we need about 5 hours to go through all of that from both Ludmila and Mike. But we will do our best to get through as much as we can. As always, we'd love to hear from you. Why not join us with questions, comments? 4001 is the text message number. Thank you very much for, I believe, Nids, who just texted in. Thank you. That's very